We're gonna.
No, we really
It's okay. We've got you. I've got the picture of you on the camera. So. Okay, so some of you have heard me talk about big body play and about the book Big Body Play. Big body play is what kids need. So a lot of times what we hear on the playground and what teacher Chanel and I say and a lot of teachers say is stop wrestling. Boys, knock it off. You can't do that. You can't do that here. It's a rule. Don't climb on that. You'll fall. You'll see parents. Their kids will climb. Oh, I got to help you climb. We have to help you do that. So these are all very natural responses from parents and standard rules for many preschools and many schools anymore. None of us want children hurt during play. Parents are very protective of their children, myself included, and that need to keep them from harm is a very strong need. Preschool teachers are protective of children in their care for many reasons. One of them is none of us want to have to tell a parent that their child was hurt on our watch. So when does all this become too constraining for a child? And to our toddlers and preschoolers and their constant and unconscious need to test their bodies and our patience. Young children always seem to be in constant motion. They need to test their bodies and see what they can accomplish with them. It's part of their growing. I'm here today to persuade you all to think a little differently than you may have in the past about how children play. Do you ever wonder if there's a reason that children want to wrestle? Is it part of growing up? Are we keeping them from doing something natural that they need to do? We've learned through experience that children, when a child is acting out, asking for something over and over, or repeating the same seemingly annoying behavior, there's usually a reason behind it, other than they just want to be annoying. Children don't really know that. They have to be taught. I want to show you today why you should consider letting children wrestle with each other, climb large objects independently, and use big body play to develop everything from language to sharing. I'm not talking about an all-out free-for-all, but a controlled and safe environment with rules and regulations and reasons. In the book Big Body Play by author Frances Carlson, she outlines the value of rough and tumble play in an early childhood setting. She shows specific and detailed ways to implement and control it in these settings. Many people see outside playtime for their children as a time to burn off their energy. Get the wiggles out and stop doing what they're doing. We send them all outside because we hope that it burns their energy off. Have you ever noticed that it doesn't always work? We send them outside and it's worse. We know that children need to develop social and emotional skills, cognitive skills, and fine and gross motor skills. We have specific ways to develop all of these. Today we took the tissue paper and they worked on fine motor skills with their butterflies and their Eric Carle paintings. And when they go outside, they're jumping and they're running. That's all their gross motor play, right? So what if I could tell you a way that you could accomplish all of these things at once? Jared Green, an early childhood developmental and behavioral specialist, said in a speech at the NAEYC, National Association for the Education of Young Children Conference in 2012, in big body play, children learn to control their bodies, their senses, and their feelings. They cooperate with peers, they take responsibility for themselves, they recover from physical and emotional bumps and scrapes, and they stretch their brains by taking risks and trying new things. It's easy to talk about burning off energy like energy is a negative thing that we have to get rid of. Think for a moment about food, as Amanda eats. Some people require more food, and some people require less. Some people have allergies, and some people can eat anything they want to eat. We all have different needs. This works very much in the same way. Children may have different needs in terms of what kind of play they require. Children may have physical restrictions. Boys and girls are very different in their development, so they may also be very different in their big body play. Not all of them may want to wrestle. Not all of them may want to run into each other or roll around on the ground. Today, Layla and a couple of her friends laid down on the ground for me, and we practiced a big body play technique. They lined up on the ground, and they were close to each other, and the first one rolled, they were on their stomachs, as flat as they could be, and the first one rolled over all the others, and then the next one rolled over all the others. So the concept of that is a lot of kids want to touch and push and be in personal space, so you have to create ways for them to do that. But Layla was like, the grass stinks. One of the other girls is like, the grass is wet, it's gross. So sometimes you might have to figure out a way to do it differently so the girls don't think it's gross or the boys don't think it's boring. So big body play is not just a physical activity with physical benefits. During such play, children also use increasingly sophisticated communication skills, both verbal and nonverbal, and social skills. It's also one of the best ways for children, especially boys, because we all know boys and girls are different and they develop differently and they're supposed to develop empathy and self-regulation. And creativity and thinking skills are enhanced as children determine and solve problems as they arise in the course of their play. So we all watch children problem solve. So in big body play, it's the same thing. You give them parameters, you tell them what you're going to do, you're very specific about what you do. And they then can kind of figure out for themselves how to solve conflict. Allowing children to push their physical boundaries is something all of us need to do as educators and as parents. It isn't always easy, and this method helps specifically outline and make it easier to determine what is right for your child or your group of children. So we've discussed big body play and all of its benefits. But what does it look like? There's many methods and tons of ideas. Remember Pinterest? We can get everything off Pinterest or Google, really. But here are a few simple and easy ways to accomplish it. So these are from the Big Body book, and a lot of them seem a little extreme. I've seen some of them in action, and some of them a little iffy about. So today, I had Layla and her friends do this, what they call the worm, where they all roll over each other. It's hard for them to do. And if you think about it, when you put children like that, are there going to be some kids that want to push each other, want to pull hair, that kind of thing? So you really have to be specific. You have to say, okay, we're doing the worm. I want all of you to line up, lay on your stomachs. I'm not going to make you do this. I want all of you to lay on the floor and get as flat as you can, and the one on the end is going to roll over all the others, and then they'll get used to it, and they'll get used to understanding that there's parameters with it. And if you have children that are autistic or they have issues with sensory things, they have to do something else. So one of them is, this one I think is going to be pretty controversial, but it's called jiggles. So you grab a child, you have them face you, you hold them with one hand under each armpit, and you jiggle them back and forth. It really is a lot more appropriate with little kids. You don't shake them like you're mad at them. You just jiggle them back and forth. They'll tell you if they don't want it. You know, your kid, your child especially, my child will say, I don't like that. Most kids will tell you if they don't want to do that. Even little kids will give you a reason, or they'll give you some clue that they really don't want you doing that with them. Little kids under 2, it's not appropriate for, because you can hurt them if you jiggle them too much. But it's just really an adult kind of wrestling with a child, and it's called jiggles and giggles. So you jiggle them and they giggle. So the worm, the one that we just talked about. This says it's as easy as it sounds, but it did not look easy when these girls were trying to roll over each other. It looked like a lot of fun, but it takes a lot of skills. I mean, you have to think. You're going to start from the ground and you're going to roll up onto the next person. So you've got a lot of muscle that's going to be used. You have to really talk to them about, your head has to be towards their head and your feet has to be towards their feet. Their heads can't be up. We found that out today, didn't we? Because if their heads were up, it didn't work, did it? Their feet can't be up because then they hit their feet. So there's some pretty general rules about it. Another one that I know that we've seen, it's called hard labor with kids. It sounds mean. It sounds like something from the early 1900s when there weren't any labor laws, but it's giving kids a job. So you're going to give them a job to pick up a bucket of rocks and make it a job. Okay, we're scraping up rocks, and that's had us do this before, where they put rocks in the dump trucks and they move them to the rocks. You want to give them a real job where they really accomplish something. If it's a fake job, they're going to know that it's a fake job. But this is all part of this. It's all part of this big body thing. This one sounds really fun to me. Crash mats. So you fold up a tumbling mat and you stand it on end, and then you put another mat down here. Really, this would probably be more appropriate for like inside. You could probably do it outside. You'd have to have something hard for the mat to be against. The teacher stands behind it, and you tell them to run at the mat and hit it as hard as they can with whatever body part they want, and then they fall down. They're not going to hit it any harder than they want to. So it's just a way of this. Like this one says, hit it with your head. I don't think I'd tell them to hit it with their head. I think I would probably tell them run into it as hard as you can and fall down. Part of the thing with big body play is it makes them think. So if you've got them doing all these physical things and you tell them to go run, but you don't give them any parameters, like you have them race. So they race around. Not only are you making them think by giving them parameters and rules and steps to take, you're getting all of it involved. So you're getting their cognitive thought process involved, and you're wearing their brain out, and then you're wearing their bodies out, and you're building all of skills. So one of the articles I just read is it is actually more taxing to a child to make them think. That's why a lot of times when our kids come home from school, they're exhausted. It wasn't from being outside. It was from sitting there trying to figure out pause testing. Oh my gosh, it's so taxing to these kids. They have to think so hard. And so thinking is actually harder for them. So you combine the thinking with the physical. So if you ever want to see big body play in play, up at the Early Childhood Learning Center at the college, Melissa Hyde does it. And she actually has an area outside that she lets the 5-year-olds and the older preschoolers wrestle in. So she sets them up. She gives them rules. You cannot use your hands. You cannot hit with your arms. When you wrestle, you have to wrestle like this. Your hands have to be down. Your arms have to be down. You can get on the ground and wrestle. You can do whatever you want. If you break one rule in big body play, you do not get another chance until the next time you do big body play. Because you can be hurt. So, does anybody have any questions? But I've convinced you all, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.